just sat and read the whole thing straight through. And I closed the script. I thought, oh.
I actually dread talking about episodes like this one, mainly because I'm truly mixed about it. There's an awful lot to love about this episode. At the same time, there's an awful lot of fluff going on between its ears. It's easier to outright love or hate something than it is to have a nuanced opinion. Over the course of the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to highlight what I believe to be the good and the bad aspects of the final Doctor Who 60th Anniversary Special. And if you haven't watched my prior reviews of Anniversary Special episodes, I highly recommend you do so. Now, without further ado, let's get on with the review. Right off the bat, Neil Patrick Harris is a blast in this episode. His variety of accents were convincing, and the consistency with which he kept up his musically oriented giggle was applause-worthy too. The sound even makes its way into the score. The idea of an entity obsessed with games to the point that all interactions in life can be boiled down to a transaction of victory and loss was fascinating. At first, I believed the Toymaker's German accent to be a reflection of his underhanded racism towards Baird's employee.
I like the fact there's that very slight thin thread of him playing with race, playing with accents, using it as an attack.
This playing doesn't seem to be very consistent with the original character of the Toymaker though, as he just seemed to have a very British accent. I could be wrong, of course. I've not watched the episodes in full. I've literally just watched a few clips on YouTube. The issue that Davies sees is the connection between putting a white guy into a Chinese-inspired costume and naming the Toymaker Celestial, a 19th century word used to describe Chinese emigrants to Western nations. Most know the word celestial to mean otherworldly or relating to the sky, a word that definitely fits the character of the Toymaker. Obviously, I have no idea what the intention of the costume designers or the script writers were back in 1966, and I think for Davies to assume their intentions gives a bad faith interpretation of the past.
Russell's Toymaker still has a clear and deliberate racist aspect.
The Toymaker makes one racist comment in the entirety of this episode. It seems to me that Davies minimised the Toymaker's racism to play things safe.
I can absolutely guarantee you on transmission, people will pipe up saying in 1966 this was a racist character. And if we haven't acknowledged that in some way, we look ignorant. I'm very, very aware of it.
If he was that concerned about not looking ignorant, maybe they should have put the Toymaker in the Chinese outfit. That really would have made him all the more dislikable both for the characters and the audience. Wait, hang on, I thought Davies didn't care what the audience thought.
There's no rules. You can do absolutely everything you want. I can't hear people complain, there'll be fans complaining about that. You can't do that. Every time someone says you can't do that, that's exactly where you should go.
But clearly there are rules set out by producers and HR departments that you are very clearly following. The images of Stooky Bill the puppet being used in an almost torturous scenario, all for the creation of the entertainment machine known as television, set things up quite nicely. Not only did the Toymaker foreshadow the Revenge of the Puppets sequence that would define this episode,
Poor Stooky Sue and the poor Stooky babies, you would leave them without Papa.
But to have the episode play on yet another momentous point in time, the creation of television, gave me Idiot's Lantern vibes. We then get to see what everyone on planet Earth, if they were a Karen, would look like. Everybody believing their rights causes planes to crash and civil unrest to erupt on the streets of London. Right. The Doctor and Donna then get escorted to unit headquarters, which looked eerily similar to the Avengers headquarters. This, accompanied by the reintroduction of this old companion Mel, gave me a bit of a stomachache. She previously showed up in that therapy session in Power of the Doctor, where I imagine she was recruited by Kate Stewart.
How do we fight the human race?
This was the setup that had me wholly interested in this episode. Unfortunately, the war against humanity is almost entirely seen from Unit's ivory tower. That sequence on the street with the Doctor questioning this random bloke totals a minute and a half of screen time. The rest of the devastation is just observed through TV screens. The giggle had been happening for 48 hours and yet no real repercussions that might affect the characters seems to take place. Worse still, the sudden introduction of the Z-Dex didn't quite do enough to explain how units were immune to the giggle in the first moments of its activation. The best the episode could come up with to solve this issue was the introduction of a robot that's plugged into the wall. Unfortunately, the machine doesn't provide any explanation as to how it was able to manufacture the Z-Dexes at such a rate, nor how it was able to know they would be needed at that exact time. The only thing we get is a needless demonstration of how these devices work. Not from unit capturing footage used on test subjects in a lab or anything. No, the unit commander-in-chief nominates herself to demonstrate how the device works, much to her humiliation. Why did nobody in the room volunteer to do this on her behalf? This then led to the idea that within this 48-hour timescale, people were expected to comply with wearing these Z-Dex armbands. Hilariously, Trinity Wells, the American newscaster from prior Davies-penned episodes, was painted as an Alex Jones conspiracy theorist deriding the idea that people should wear these things.
I am anti-Z-Dex.
Obviously, the show is trying to have a jab at anti-vaxxers, especially by the way the Z-Dexes almost appear like yellow badges. I'm assuming Davies was inspired by the news story that a hat shop in Nashville created these not vaccinated badges, much to the upset of the locals who believed them to be Nazis. The episode then established that a South Korean satellite provided global access to the internet. Coincidentally, only in the past month, both North and South Korea have launched surveillance satellites into space, the latter with the help of Elon Musk's company SpaceX. You guys best believe that the Koreans have no intention of helping the world out with their internet supply needs until their 70-year-long military stalemate gets sorted. It's a damn shame there wasn't any kind of exploration of the worldwide repercussions of UNIT destroying this satellite. Conveniently, UNIT gave the satellite a pass because it was clean, whilst the Doctor also proclaims that every screen that has ever existed has been infected by the giggle. His big speech about technology being the catalyst for humanity's anger was well delivered, but I don't really know what he was trying to say. That we'd be angry with each other anyway? Obviously, he's working on limited information. We're only 15 minutes into the episode after all. So let's fast forward to 30 minutes into the episode when the toy maker says this.
That's the game of the 21st century. They shout, and they type, and they cancel.
So I guess it's social media they're having a jab at? It's honestly not a very well fleshed out idea, merely scratching the surface of social commentary. It was quite the miracle of coincidence as well that through both Donna trying to teach Rose how to play the recorder and Mel knowing what an arpeggio was, they could figure out that the giggle was hypnotizing by both images and sound. I think had the Star Beast created more setups for the giggle aside from the introduction of Shirley, less of these ideas would feel rushed and might have reduced the glaring pacing issues in both episodes. I appreciated the subtle nod to the Doctor's prior election as the President of the world via Kate Stewart's enthusiastic following of the Doctor's orders. I imagine she was happier to not make that decision considering how many other decisions she would probably be having to make in this time of crisis. At the same time, that moment with Donna being offered a job with a big fat salary was kinda strange. It satisfies the financial insecurity she and her husband expressed in the Star Beast, but wouldn't it have been more appropriate for Donna to bring up the destruction of her house?
UNIT have a great insurance policy. Damage to property in the course of an alien war.
I've told her. Sue for compensation.
The Doctor and Donna then go back in time to find the first TV broadcast demonstration. I really loved this conversation the pair had with Donna complaining about how the Doctor just doesn't ever stop charging off, unable to face up to his legacy. Instead of going directly to the source of the broadcast, however, the Doctor insists on the pair investigating the toy shop where Stookie came from. Harris's eccentricity was on fire in this scene, and the reveal that the Doctor actually invoked the return of the Toymaker by pouring salt out at the end of the universe tied up that loose end rather nicely. Despite the set of the never-ending wooden corridors appearing to be lackluster, I did appreciate the score playing this faint, almost fairground music in the background. It gave off the impression that the pair were in a hall of mirrors. I also really appreciated the cosmic uncertainty as to the origins of the Toymaker.
I let the TARDIS fall into another realm, a hollow beneath the under-universe, where science is a game and all of us are toys.
It's a shame because this was a much more interesting and mysterious way of contextualizing this nemesis that he had fought before than flashing images of colorized shots from the classic era. The pair then gets split up and the episode soars in creativity. It's a shame this reveal of the giant Toymaker in the sky was already slapped into the trailer for this series, but it was still a great moment all the same. The chap from the opening scene being revealed to be a puppet with a human head on was quite disturbing. Donna's scene with the rest of the puppet family was great as well. The room being set up as though she were at the top of a clock tower reminded me of the 2011 film Hugo. The absolute commitment to building up tension with real-life puppetry and actors in black bodysuits was applause-worthy.
As soon as you have a puppet in front of you, so many people naturally start reacting to it.
Yeah.
They have visceral reactions.
The rhyming dialogue and the cherub imagery associated with these hungry babbies was great stuff. To then have Donna getting a front row seat to the Doctor's Punch and Judy show, absolutely prime stuff.
Then he was meeting Clara, but she was killed by a bird.
I love the way Harris delivers this as though he himself came up with the idea of Clara being killed in this way. Even the fact that the fam got completely glossed over had me roaring with laughter. This led to the Doctor challenging the Toymaker to a game of cutting the deck and seeing what comes up. I can definitely give credit to Harris being able to juggle and shuffle, though I believe it to be a seriously missed opportunity to not have the Toymaker displaying some contact juggling. Harris clearly put in a lot of effort for this role already, but I think contact juggling would be the ultimate way of tying together toys, puppetry, and hypnotism into one activity. My prediction that the Meep would be working for the Toymaker turned out not to be true, largely because of this idea that somebody greater than the Toymaker is lurking in the shadows. This idea carries big weight, because with the mighty master being trapped inside the Toymaker's tooth, that means a nemesis of serious magnitude is being hyped up for the next series.
That's someone else's game.
I just lost the game. The pair then return to 2023, where the Toymaker arrives, living up to his description given by the Doctor.
An elemental force. Beyond the rules of the universe.
This sequence was absolutely bizarro. It definitely had a drag race runway, lip sync for your life vibe about it, but absolute props to Harris for providing the performance of a lifetime in this episode. His energy was on full blast here, and the way he threw around the older female characters around the room was hilarious. The guns creating a flurry of petal bullets, and the fact there's no rational or scientific explanation to any of this was tremendous fun. Unfortunately, the moment the Toymaker went outside to the big gun, things took a bit of a turn, largely because of my ability to predict that this was going to be the means by which the Doctor would be killed, but also the fact that Harris wasn't in the same bloody room as the rest of the cast for what seems to be the remainder of the episode. Don't get me wrong, Harris absolutely kills it delivering this monologue about how rich in games humanity is. It was just very jarring seeing him playing catch with Tennant and Gatwa, cutting back and forth so rapidly that you can barely make heads or tails of anything. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about this by generation thing. I love it when Davies plays on our expectations and twists up the conventions of this show. Alonzi would have been a very famous last word for 14, and the mix of emotions that went through me during this sequence cannot be understated. I was maddened by the cancelling of the regeneration, and then immediately became hooked on the idea of the companions pulling the new Doctor from the old one. The uncertainty I experienced was exhilarating, and the idea of one Doctor giving birth to another, that was just fantastic. After having 3 Doctors in a row pulling the same drawn-out monologue malarkey, I'm glad they spiced up this regeneration in the way that they did. Though manipulating footage from the trailer felt very weird.
Someone tell me what the hell is going on here? Someone tell me what the hell is going on here?
Does 15 being in his pants mean that 14 is now going commando? As much as I loved the Toymaker mocking the idea of a bi-generation and being entertained by the notion of killing the Doctor again and again, I found the three of them playing catch to be a bit of an anti-climax. I honestly don't know what entertainment value I can gain from watching three grown men playing this game, especially knowing that only 2 out of 3 of them are in the same room. Plus, I really don't know what I'm meant to take from the Master's tooth being taken by yet another red-nailed hand. I know it's a reference to the Last of the Time Lords, but if I had to guess, I'd say this was the hand of one of the Toymaker's legions. I don't know. After the banishment of the Toymaker, it became clear to me that this was very much still Tennant's episode. He unfortunately outshines Gatwa's Doctor performance-wise, limiting the latter to be the preacher of self-love and
Key to Time, Logopolis, Adric, Riversong, Sarah Jane Rose, Pandorica, Mavic Chen.
Basically a nostalgia baiter. Heck, I thought Donna reeling off all her old adventures during the Toymaker's shop sequence was bad enough.
Ood, Davros, the Adipose, Daleks built a great big bomb.
Both Donna and 15 insisting that the solution to the end of this era of the show is for the multi-millennial time traveler to have an ordinary human life baffled me.
One thing you need in this place is a chair.
Sit down. Sit down.
Wait. So the reason the Doctor's old face was chosen was for him to come home?
Maybe that's why your old face came back. You're wearing yourself out. You changed your face. Do you know why? To come home.
What a bloody cop-out. So the Doctor essentially goes into retirement with Donna. The moment had sort of been prepared for.
Oh, Sonic and TARDIS and Time Lord, take that away. Take away the toys. What am I?
Yet I felt like it was far too familiar to how they wrapped up the Meta-Crisis Doctor in Journey's End. Hell, at least they deleted the scene with the Doctor giving a TARDIS seed to his doppelganger. Here, they couldn't even do that. Because apparently the Toymaker's domain is still lingering, that means the TARDIS can be duplicated. I'm not really sure why, as the tragedy that only one Doctor can travel would have made for such a bittersweet ending to this episode.
Who'd have thought? I ended up with a family.
You already have one.
You've got the biggest family on Earth.
They literally establish in the final scene that the Doctor has already been taking his new family out for a spin in his TARDIS. Why they felt the need to immortalise this regeneration in such a cringy way, I have no idea.
Hey, watch this.
So these two were just waiting around in this room for Donna and the Doctor's to come out of the TARDIS? This previous companion of the Doctor's is just left standing in front of the TARDIS that she travelled in for 22 episodes and isn't even invited inside to see what it looks like now? Worse still, despite the Doctor demonstrating that the TARDIS is now wheelchair accessible,
At last, you finally caught up with the 21st century.
even Shirley doesn't get to have a look inside. Sticking this bullshit at the end of this episode was shameful. One thing I did appreciate was the cheeky and dangerous musical theme 15 has been bestowed. The inclusion of what I'm guessing is a saxophone into the mix provides a lively and playful aura as opposed to an epic theme. Normally these epilogue-y kind of scenes are contextualized with a 3 months later card or something, but no, Mel just waltzes onto the scene.
Am I late? You don't mind?
Oh, your family, darling. Sit down.
Displaying that some time has gone by.
Mad Auntie Mel. Mad Auntie Mel. I like to
I'm so bloody torn. Can someone please explain to me how I can have nostalgic appreciation for turning Amy, Clara, and Bill into puppets, and yet feel so alienated by Mel's inclusion? Would going back and watching all 26 seasons of Classic Who help me appreciate her character?
I think you're beautiful.
Probably not. I was also lamenting just how little Donna and her husband interacted in these specials. I really enjoyed Sean's inclusion in the Star Beast, and it was a shame he wasn't given more to do in this one. This hurts more when you realise that Donna's family was her whole arc for these episodes. She longed to return to them above all else in Wild Blue Yonder, and yet the biggest part of that family is basically just dad vibes encapsulated.
Oh my god, I got it wrong. The vegan one is in the flowers.
Like Moffat before him, Davies uses the anniversary special to lay the foundations for the next era of Doctor Who. Capaldi had the hunt for Gallifrey, and Gatwa now has the hunt for a pair of trousers. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all of the 60th anniversary specials reviewed. If you'd like to watch my mega review of the 50th anniversary special, all you've got to do is make a True Simp pledge over on my Patreon page. There you will find links not only to that video, but a whole bunch of other Patreon exclusive content. So, did it suck? In the build up to these specials, my excitement for a new Doctor and a fresh series far outweighed the return of Tennant and Tate. It has been very refreshing to have a competent writer spearheading the show, with some excellent actors taking the reins too. Particularly in this episode, Neil Patrick Harris completely stole the show. His character was a worthy nemesis with an unfortunately weak wrap-up. The plot of this episode was largely overshadowed by the Bi-Generation and its need to hit the reset button as quickly as possible. I am definitely enjoying the score a lot more, and I really enjoyed the creepy Stooky Bill puppetry stuff. The best sequence was when the Doctor and Donna were trapped in the toy shop, and admittedly I did really enjoy the Bi-Generation in its execution. The rest of the episode felt quite hollow, except perhaps with the Spice Up Your Life segment. There needed to be more context established in prior episodes for the plot of this episode to be more than a bare bones concept. Otherwise, it's not a bad episode. It just could have been a lot better. I give the Giggle a 6 out of 10.
Today, we live in a diverse society, so the 2023 Toymaker is a white character portrayed by a white actor.